You know, there's a special kind of love that only family can evoke out of us. The kind of love that would drive you to kill, to steal, or to sacrifice quite literally everything to defend them from danger if need be. But those emotions are maybe no stronger and more visceral than with that of a parent to their child, a protector when they need it most. And that's exactly what makes the story of Joel Miller and Ellie Williamson so unrelentingly captivating. A father and daughter united by circumstance rather than blood. A journey about a matured man who has given up on the world versus a young girl who still sees so much hope in it all. And it's that clash of ideas, of pessimism born of nothing but endless struggle against the waves of hope and optimism that endure regardless, that forge a man with a tale to tell as powerful as anything out there. You see, at the very beginning of the game, we are introduced to Joel, a tough and rugged man who comes off as intense, yet very loving beneath it all. But before we even get a chance to see more of these sides of Joel, a massive zombie outbreak transpires, and he has to grab his young daughter Sarah and rush to safety. Sadly though, during this escape, she ends up getting shot by a soldier taking orders to not let anyone through. And this results in Joel looking his own daughter in her eyes as she chokes on the blood filling her esophagus, dying in his arms with tears rolling down her cheeks. And so when we pick up again with Joel many years later, now living in a quarantined city surrounded by guards and killing and fighting his way through people for his own survival, his intense violence and hardened nature at this point come as no surprise. However, these adventures quickly result in Joel meeting a young girl named Ellie, who may just hold the secrets to saving the human race and immunity to the disease wreaking havoc, resulting in Joel being tasked with taking her to some scientists far away to research further. And it's this massive and sprawling journey that Joel and Ellie go on that compounds into one of the most satisfying, heroic, and even evil character arcs in all of games. Because you see, early on Joel treats Ellie with little respect and almost no sense of dignity. He doesn't trust her, he is rude, and he holds his own survival above hers in the face of enemies, often doing things like going up ladders first or running without helping Ellie beforehand. The beauty beneath it all within this man, though, starts to slowly creep its way into the narrative as he spends more and more time with Ellie, a young girl with more heart and resilience than 1,000 warriors, and also the exact person Joel needed in his life. At one point, while Joel and Ellie are running away from some bandits with a machine gun car, Ellie and the others have made it to safety, but Joel is stuck below with no way up, still under attack. But rather than running to safety like the others, Ellie instead, without hesitation, turns and jumps back down to Joel, risking her own life to help him survive. And it's because of this sacrifice, along with many other times Ellie does everything she can for Joel, that he starts to let his guard down, becoming more nice and understanding. But still, his hardened and desensitized exterior still have trouble dealing with his past, resulting in a moment where he tells Ellie he will be abandoning her, leaving her with his brother after she asks about his dead daughter Sarah. Tears fill Ellie's eyes as she cries, begging for Joel to stay. She doesn't feel safe anywhere else. He is all that she has. And though it takes a short horse ride to come to his senses, it's in this moment specifically that wakes Joel up from his slumber and ignites a fire in his soul that was extinguished so many years ago. And from this moment on, he lives in service to this young girl, to the person who showed him love despite all the hate and inspired him to greatness, forging a bond between them that becomes unbreakable and makes the story and set of characters so irresistible. So towards the end of the game, when Ellie is finally captured and taken from him, this results in Joel stopping at nothing to get her back, whether that be torturing or abusing others out of pure rage, or fighting off an injury that seems like a death sentence before Ellie's help. And after saving her from the hell she's been through, Ellie never feels the same. She has lost her innocence and is creeping her way down the path that Joel once took, to anger and madness. We see Joel as he struggles to try and help Ellie and give her a better life, but what is done, and it can't be taken back. Ellie has seen so much pain and suffering while with Joel that she'll just never be the same. And this all comes to a crescendo right at the end, where after finally reaching the hospital that will research how Ellie is immune, it's revealed that they will kill her in order to make a vaccine, one that could save the world. But faced with that proposition, that the one thing that destroyed humanity as we know it could be solved, Joel refuses it. He cannot let Ellie go. He will not let her die like Sarah. So he massacres the entire building, scientists included, and rushes Ellie out. The single most powerful moment in Joel's entire story sets into motion. Ellie awakes in a car with Joel driving away and asks what happened. Joel, in an attempt to maintain Ellie's innocence, lies and tells her that they weren't able to find a cure and that they're headed home. Suddenly, the apparent hero of the journey, a man on a mission to save humanity, has become its greatest villain. He sacrifices quite literally potentially the future of the human race, all for one little girl who isn't even his real daughter. But you see, for Joel, she was so much more than that. She was a reminder of what he lost before, of the evil man he became, and of the ruthless killing he committed in the name of survival. For Joel, Ellie was a reminder of what was good about humanity too, and he wasn't willing to let that go to save a society that had turned to such great evil so quickly before his eyes. It's one of the most tragic, horrifying, and strangely uplifting character arcs in gaming history, and is only made better by how much depth and growth Joel shows on his journey through hell and back. The Witcher series, just like its counterpart at CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk, is home to countless unforgettable characters. Yennefer, Triss, Vesemir, and of course, our main protagonist and also the thing most people think of when they hear the word Witcher, Geralt. But amongst this hodgepodge of so many standouts, there is one that rises above them all, for me at least. A character defined by his evil and cunning nature, but also the riddles and insanity he thrusts into a world already filled with so many. Gaunter o' Dimm. We actually meet Gaunter right at the start of the main game, in an inn where he gives us information on our quest and mentions that we may meet again. But at this point, he seems like a nice yet strange older man that is just willing to help out. It's only during the Hearts of Stone DLC that we actually get to dive into this insane man's nature even further. At the start of the DLC, Geralt finds himself trapped in a jail cell aboard a boat, and out of nowhere, Gaunter appears and tells Geralt he can help if he agrees to a pact, after which he brands Geralt's face and causes a massive storm that unleashes Geralt from his holding. So it's not clear who this strange figure is quite yet, but after this escapade, it's clear that he has powers well beyond what we originally thought, and Geralt even remarks to him the next time he sees him that he must be a mage with his control over the elements. But as time passes, we discover that Gaunter is a lot more than just your run-of-the-mill mage. Out on your quests throughout the DLC, for those of us with especially astute detective skills, Gaunter can actually be seen all around us the entire time, hiding as guards, peasants, or nearby patrons. He is watching our every move and idea, and always seems to be one step ahead. But when he talks to us, he assures us that he cannot lie, and while this is technically true, it's through his master manipulation of wordplay and diction that he construes his thoughts in ways that are more tricky than straightforward. A man that speaks in nothing but riddles, yet stands by his convictions, meaning he does in theory always tell the truth. However, up to this point in the DLC, Gaunter is still nothing more than a strange character with witty and charismatic banter, as well as powers multiple mages in the canon already have. Where things start to get really insane, and our first true glimpse at the powers of this man is when Geralt meets him in an inn. Gaunter wants to speak to Geralt privately, but instead of commissioning a room at the inn to do so, he simply claps his hands, and suddenly, in the blink of an eye, the world before Geralt and Gaunter freezes in place. It seems that this strange and puzzling man has a lot more intrigue than he originally has let on, and it's here Geralt realizes he's up against something so much greater. But as to what that something is, Gaunter keeps it close to his chest, instead deciding to stick a spoon through a man's eyes and unfreeze time, where his face explodes into a bloody mess around him and Gaunter makes a quick exit. So as the DLC progresses, there are more and more run-ins with this mysterious figure, and with each thing we peel back more about him, he becomes more and more interesting. He obviously is evil in nature to some extent, but he also seems nice and charismatic at other points when talking to him. But behind it all is a sense that you can't shake that this man is hiding something much, much more evil than he's been revealed to be yet. More terrifying than Geralt has ever gone up against. and Geralt's gone against a lot of scary things. And the way that Gaunter is written really sells his point so much. It makes the DLC and story on offer here so intriguing, and it's the single reason for most people this DLC is so beloved in the first place, and also why Gaunter is by many accounts the best villain the series has ever seen. We even get information on him as well by visiting an Oxenfurt professor studying the dark arts named Shakeslock, who explains that after trying to study the man more, he was blinded and now forced to sit in a ritualistic circle for all of his life or lose a pact with Gaunter and perish. Shakeslock tells Geralt that Gaunter is quite literally evil incarnate, and that nothing he has ever seen in his line of work even comes close to the small glimpses he had of the wicked nature of this mysterious figure. And lo and behold, mid-conversation, Shakeslock accidentally steps outside the circle, after which a bookshelf falls that Geralt is able to stop, but this forces Shakeslock to move back and trip, falling over and killing himself with a hit to the head. Gaunter, as usual, never lies, but hid the fact that Geralt would be part of this death as well. And really, it's just another example of why Gaunter is so compelling as a character. He is pure evil in a way, but also incredibly smart, always one step ahead of everyone. But still, the question as to who Gaunter truly is, or what he is, still looms. And only at the end of the DLC story do we finally get a glimpse into his true nature. Depending on your actions here, he can send Geralt to a land of shadow beings and strange visions where he must solve a riddle, or even transform into a demon-like figure that speaks in tongues and causes the world around you to turn unrelentingly black. And just like that, he disappears, but with a promise Geralt hasn't seen the last of him. Even after all the talking, all the intrigue, you still end not knowing who he is. And that's maybe the most interesting part about Gaunter. Not only his amazing writing, sadistic depth with a happy front, or fun riddles, but the fact that he still hides something so menacing that we've yet to figure out. Many in the community assume that he is in fact the devil, as it would explain his riddles and evil nature. But maybe his initials point to something even crazier. Gaunter o' Dimm. G-O-D. God. Just when you thought this character couldn't get any more fascinating, his legend and intrigue only builds. Disco Elysium is one of the highest rated games of all time, but on the same token, it's also one of the most niche. Gameplay consists almost entirely of walking and listening to dialogue, and at many points you may question whether you're even playing a game at all, but rather an interactive novel. And while this type of thing is up a lot of people's alleys, it surprisingly really feels overrated to me, even as a sucker for games that focus on narrative myself. The writing can feel overly pretentious, being forced to read books or talk to people to pass time to get to my next objective feels not well thought out and tedious, and overall I wouldn't call the experience fun by any means. But fun isn't what this game is about. Rather, the title is home to some of the deepest and most introspective dives into the human psyche, about what it means to be alive, who we are as a person, and even looks into the downfalls of any political ideology you can think of, which in all honesty makes this experience feel like a one-of-a-kind thing you won't find anywhere else, and because of that, I 100% see why the title is so beloved despite my apprehensions. Regardless though, the real crowning achievement of this story, and also the part I thought was executed remarkably well, is the main character and protagonist you play as, Harry Dubois. And that's because the story of Harry is about the journey of a man discovering who he is, how he thinks, and overall how he fits into the strange and foreboding expanse in front of him, both physically and metaphorically. You see, at the very start of the story, you awake in your bed to discover you drank so heavily the night before that you quite literally have no idea who you are, what your name is, or what is even going on at all. In fact, it's only hours into the game that you discover your name is actually Harry, and you are given ample decision points to select even more suave names instead, like Tequila Sunset, Dick Mullen, or my personal favorite, the heroic Captain Sober. But after battling with your own inner thoughts voiced by one of the most gruff voice actors of all time and gathering your things, you head downstairs at this local inn you awoke in and discover that you're actually a police officer for the local precinct, after which you are brought up somewhat to speed with your assigned helper detective, Kim. A murder was committed a few days prior just outside the inn you're staying at, and you've been tasked with discovering discovering what happened and who the perpetrator is. And while solving this murder mystery technically is the main driving force of the narrative, the real point of it all is actually about something so much deeper, about discovering who you are, and what makes you tick as Harry, a tabula rasa or blank slate of sorts who you must mold into your very own. You get to do this by leveling up and allocating each of your points to a set of 24 different skills, ranging from drama and rhetoric, which let you speak with eloquence or act out and deceive others, to electrochemistry and half-light, which turn your drive for drugs and violence up to the heavens. And it's through leveling up certain stats while ignoring or neglecting others that you really start to forge Harry into the man he will become. A few points in a skill like empathy will result in you being able to notice feelings in others and act upon them to unlock new dialogue. But too many points in that same skill and you may begin to cry uncontrollably or freak out at even the smallest of things, which could ruin the entire murder investigation, making you look like an emotional freak. Along with this as well, through your journey you discover ideas that you can think on and take as your own, like critical race theory or even the dreaded feminism. And each of those also unlock new options and dialogue along with an array of positive and negative effects, and by the end of the game you will have a whole slew of these things, along with tons of points allocated into your stats, all of which drastically affect your playthrough and who Harry becomes. So this means that while the main narrative of the experience is always very similar, how you get there vastly changes based on whether you are playing as a super smart brainiac that has encyclopedic knowledge of everything and everybody, or a body-focused drug-induced maniac that punches his way through problems. And it's that intersection of engaging mechanics like this, along with a character that is molded through your decisions, that makes this narrative and character arc such a compelling one in games specifically. With destiny that is determined firmly from input, and a character whose very nature is determined from our own. The exact thing that makes characters and storytelling in games so special in the first place. But it's also that journey with Harry on his own along the way that makes it so special too. There are countless hilarious lines you can say to Kim that are as endearing as they are absurd, and it's through that relationship with him and so many other characters that you meet and how you interact with them that Harry finally starts to form his own identity of sorts. One that you are integral in forming through the decisions you make the entire way through. Things like what you fought for, your opinions on family, life, politics, and war all get questioned non-stop throughout your playthrough, and it's how you interpret these long discussions and what you internalize from them to use with Harry that makes the character so utterly captivating. Like one woman you meet near the shoreline who tells you about her past loves and children who you can eventually take on a small date, reminiscing about a world long gone and what love really even is. Or talking to Kim on the balcony after your first big day being an investigator back from the brink of losing his mind, and talking about what freedom even means in a world that has lost so much, and if only the young can even believe in it. It's ideas like this and those smaller moments just talking to characters that really make Harry as a character himself shine so much. Accepting or laughing at the demons in his past, trying to wrestle with the pain that he has caused so many others, and also coming to terms with who he was before and what he even values as a person. And what makes that experience even all the more powerful is the fact that our own identity as the player plays a crucial role in this transformation of Harry into something that may not be who he was before, for better or for worse. He's one of the most interesting and compelling characters in games because of how our own actions not only unravel the history of a truly broken man, but how our decisions also forge him into something new, something we can call our own. Because you see, Disco Elysium isn't a game about solving a murder. It's a game about discovering Harry Dubois, about discovering ourselves. And maybe that's the best thing a character can ever do.